Wow. We're live. We're live after Liverpool 4, Shrewsbury Town or Shrewsbury Town, depending on where you're from. 1. Brian's here. Brian, it's great to be able to do this live on YouTube for once, and also it'll be out as an audio podcast. How are you feeling, Brian?
I feel great. It was a nice run out for the boys. Some players got some minutes in the legs, and it was a bit of a game for a bit there. But all in all, it's good performance by the team. I enjoyed watching the game. It was great. Onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards. Onwards and upwards. It's I don't know though. I mean, yes, it was fun and all that, and it was nice. It was a sort of little sort of pick me up because it was an enjoyable game. But if we're going to be cold, and let's be cold for a minute, and let's use cold hard analysis, I don't think Man City would have toiled as much as we did for the first 30 minutes of that match, or even most of that match. Really, I mean, we got a penalty. We got a couple of scruffy goals as well as a couple of really good goals. And I just think that the difference between City and us is palpable and obvious in that when they're in and around the box, they play very sharply to each other, much like the space we created for our third goal, Bobby Firmino's back heel. City they knock it around the box and they get behind even a deep lying team because they're playing triangles out on the wing, whereas Liverpool get to these positions and we try, for example, the long straight chip over the top, or we try we just run out of ideas, basically. Does this worry you, in general, going forward as a sort of philosophical change? I mean, Andy Robertson, sorry, I'll let you talk in a minute, but Andy Robertson had 11 crosses, for example. 3 of them were accurate. And if there's one way of summing up our attacking performance, it's that, and I think we could be a bit more clever rather than just lumping it into a box with Max Waltman and Kaide Gordon. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, and I think we just grind teams down these days, particularly teams that we don't need. Well, with that team that we played today, you had a sense that they'll crack eventually. And yeah, we just kept the ball. We kept moving it out to the side, to the back forward. On and on and on and on and on. And I think it just felt like something was going to give, and then something did, and then something was going to give again. I mean, in my mind, I was crying out for, a little bit of inventive play in the middle of the pitch. We needed the quick 1-2s because they seemed very comfortable pushing the ball out to the sides and back into the center again. But I just had a sense that, I hear what you're saying about City. They definitely go about their business in a different way to us at the moment. But we're not always like that. I think when we're really on it and we're on form, we play some scintillating football. But today, I think it was just a case of get it done. Don't take these guys lightly, and get some of the young players out there on the pitch, and with a good mix of senior players, young players, and I think ultimately, it was we did exactly what we needed to do. It was 4-1. Nobody got injured. Touch wood. I know Robbo had a bit of a nasty challenge on his ankle at the end there, but playing against Shrewsbury, I don't judge the team that strongly, particularly with the amount of young players that are in the team as well.
It's talking about the youngsters, I mean, there were some good performances, weren't there, out there? I mean, Curtis Jones, does he still count as a youngster coming through? I don't know, but certainly Gordon does, and Tyler Morton does, and certainly who else was out there? There was Morton, there was Gordon. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting someone.
Max Waltman, was the right back, wasn't it?
And Conor Bradley, yeah, there you go. So there were awesome. Tons of them out there. There's probably more I've forgotten about. Who stood out for you? Speaking about the positives, who was the youngster that caught your eye the most?
Well, two players. I mean, Tyler Morton is the most impressive young player I've seen since Steven Gerrard. I mean, I even think he's caught my eye more than Sterling did when he was making his way through. I just think he's got so much composure for such a young player. He looks so comfortable out there, and I just think he's going to be a very, very big player for us over the coming years. And so, he's almost knocking on the door of regular first team / bench football. I don't know, maybe not so much in the big games, but I mean, he's played in some big games and he looked totally, I don't shudder when I see his name on the team sheet. So another great performance from him. Probably not his best performance, but solid. But I thought the right back was awesome. He was the absolute standout for me of not all the players on the pitch, but definitely the young players. The Conor Bradley. He was amazing, and that cutback he did, the assist he got with I think it was Fabinho, was completely awesome. He really wanted it, and I thought he had a great game.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Conor Bradley in a minute, and the one I had forgotten. Now I've got the lineup in front of me. Was of course Dickson Bonner. Of course he started as well. Elijah Dickson Bonner, although I think he's about 21, 22 now, surprisingly. But anyway, yeah, going back to Tyler Morton, I find it interesting what you're saying. How much you love the guy. I mean, I think he's good. I think he's very tidy in possession. He had, I believe it was 8 long passes, and they were all successful. I'm going to double check that. Yes, 8 out of 8 long passes today, which is incredible. 1 cross, and it was accurate. And his overall passing percentage accuracy was 95.7%. Which is pretty amazing from 92 passes. So there's that. I mean, that's absolutely superb. Defensively, we didn't have much to do, but he managed to get 1 tackle and 1 interception in. But I'm not sure about him, Brian. I'm not 100% sure about Gordon. About Tyler Morton, because I think he's as tidy as he is. There's just a physicality that's obviously lacking. That you mentioned Steven Gerrard. When Steven Gerrard came through, he was still, putting himself about, and you could see that there was a real strength there. Whereas I feel that there are periods of the game when it passes Tyler Morton by. I don't know. What do you reckon? Am I being harsh?
I think you are being a little bit harsh because, he is 12 years old. So there's that,
True. Very true.
And, he's playing for the best football team on the planet, and he's making it look easy. I mean, he doesn't look phased out there by any chance. I mean, he'll fill out for sure, I mean, he's quite slight, but I disagree with what you're saying there. It's because I don't think he's not really a unit as a football player. He's not very well put together physically, but it doesn't. I mean, I don't think that's his game, and I don't think he doesn't look like he's brushed off the ball either at any stage. But no, I'm just look. I run out of good things to say about him. I just think the little I've seen of him so far. Not once has he let me down. Not once I thought, wow, he is a young player. Maybe we should pull him now. I just think he's done so well, and he's not been the best player on the pitch all those times, but he definitely hasn't been the worst player on the pitch most of the time. He's just a solid 7. And I just think, for a player of his age, I mean, I'm not sure how old he is. He 17 or?
No, he's actually older than you think. He's 19.
Oh, Jesus, well, he's practically, he's going to be playing his testimonial soon then.
Get the bus pass.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just think he's likes of him and Harvey Elliott and, some of the other players knocking about. I just think, the future's bright. There's some big players there potentially in our youth setup. It reminds me a little bit of when Raheem Sterling and Jordan Ibe and all that gang were coming through. There was about 4 or 5 of them that you think maybe one of these can make the step up, and I think 2 of them, did eventually. So yeah, no, really good, and and also Conor Bradley, as you say, he continues to impress. he's done well, and again they've not done themselves any harm today with that performance in terms of getting more time on the pitch going forward. So yeah, really good.
Great stuff. Yeah, Conor Bradley, he had 2 key passes in the match from 88 passes, a 79.6% passing accuracy. It's not bad. He had 3 accurate crosses out of 9, which again goes back to the philosophical thing that I mentioned at the top about, I think we're crossing too much. We should be picking people out. But of course, it was he who picked out one of the rare times in the whole match when we actually, instead of just slinging the ball in and hoping for the best, which is, a bit like a Hail Mary, he very precisely picked out Kaide Gordon for our first goal, for the equalising goal. And I thought that was excellent, maturity beyond his years. He's only 18. And 2 accurate long balls as well. Defensively, again, he didn't have much to do, but 1 tackle, 1 interception, and 2 clearances. Wow. This is Cop On. I mean, it's live on YouTube. If anyone wants to get in their comments, they're more than welcome. And also, hello to all of the listeners who have, downloaded this in the audio version. A couple of other players to talk about. I mean, we've got a few things. Just talking about the positives of players who stand out. I mean, who else stood out for you today?
Fabinho. I thought he was awesome. I thought he was great. I mean, even putting his goals aside, I just thought I think a lot of our players grew into the game. I think you could see that they were a little bit rusty. There's obviously quite a few of them maybe recovering from the latest strain of COVID, and there's been a lot of disruption in life in our camp, as with all football teams at the moment. And I think you could see that in some of the performance we've seen lately. And this particular game, I think the beginning of the game, I don't know about you, but I didn't feel. I was thinking, oh God, we could be in for another long day here. The signs aren't great. But as the game went on, I just think gradually we just took control of that game, and I think Fabinho was a big part of that. He just bossed the game in the middle of the pitch, just in that anchor position, just ran the show, and as the game went on, he seemed to be more and more adventurous in his play and getting forward. So for me, he was the best senior player on the pitch out there today.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. I loved his performance. Really good. He didn't take them too lightly. He was getting stuck in. Just dominated the match in the midfield. We really miss him when he's not there. One of the world's best midfielders. He's an extraordinary player. Extraordinary. Another player I'd love to talk about is the guy who had the most amount of passes in the whole match, which might surprise you without showing you who that is. I mean, you could see on the screen a few things from who scored, but I've got the total, all of the passing stats in front of me. Who do you think had the most passes in the match, Brian? Do you want to take a wild guess?
Oh, was it? Could it have been Curtis Jones? Surely not.
Oh, that's a very good guess, but it was actually Ibu Konate with
Oh, wow.
123 passes, and Virgil was next with 121, and then Andrew Robertson on 112. Curtis Jones had 88 passes. We'll get on to Curtis in a bit because I thought he was really good actually. But Ibu, I want to talk about him because there's this thing that I already love with all my heart. And that's when things are, things are a little bit messy, and the opposition team think that they can break, and perhaps one of their attacking players kicks the ball forward, and they think they're going to run onto it. But Big Ibu steps in, and not only does he win the ball, he strides away with the ball and then zips a pass into one of our players' feet. I freaking love that. And I'm beginning to absolutely adore the guy. How do you feel about Ibu?
Yeah, the gentle giant. I know what you mean. He can shift. I mean, sometimes he looks cumbersome, his gait, when he's running. But then this pace comes from nowhere, and like he might be a yard behind the player, and suddenly he's just a little bit Virgil van Dijk like, just passing him with ease. So he definitely has speed to burn. And he just seems like a good lad as well. You know, he's always anytime there's a goal, he's always there in the thick of it, and always, you know, big smile. And you know, we'll never forget his announcement videos. I mean, it's the best we've ever seen. So we all want him to do well. And I think I mean, I've been a bit of a critic of him, you know, a couple of times in his early games, because he seemed to take a little bit of time to settle in with the system, and I felt a little bit on edge sometimes. But gradually, I don't see him out of position as much. He's not getting pulled out of position, and he seems to have settled into our system and understand the movements of play, and where he has to be and where he shouldn't be. And yeah, he had another great game today, so he was awesome out there.
Yeah, I mean, are there any areas of his game that you would like to, you know, see him improve? I think he's surprisingly not that good with his head, for example.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of. I mean, he's a great player, but I think he's a rough diamond. I think there's quite a few areas that he could definitely improve on. I mean, his overall game is great. His defensive ability is great. His strength's great. But I think his positioning is still. I mean, I think those kind of things come with age, I suppose. But he definitely could be more aware of the patterns of play that's around him and what's happening. I think clever players will be able to perhaps pull him out of position and leave holes when he goes chasing, you know, a ball or whatever. Heading, yeah, maybe, but I mean, has he had many? Doesn't seem to be targeted as a player that has weak heading. But for me, yeah, the thing that's really stood out is his positioning. But like I say, I feel like it's got better over the last few weeks. So, and I think he'll just go and become, you know, he'll go from strength to strength.
Yeah, great answer. No, you're right about the positioning. That's something that you learn as a defender over the years, isn't it? Great stuff. Couple of people in the chat. The Asian Sensational FC would like some, he says, YNWA, and please help me reach 150 subs. So that's subscribers if you want to subscribe to the Asian Sensational FC. And he says he loves cop on cake because, you know, for those who are listening to the audio might not realize, I am sort of with some kind of Snapchat filter as a cake today, which is I don't know, just it's
great.
not my birthday. Dave from Dave's LFC chats asked if it's my birthday. No, it's not. It's just a Happy New Year thing. I'm feeling a bit hungry, so I turn myself into a cake.
This is my favorite cup on episode ever.
Well, you know, we're nothing if not surreal.
Yes.
And Alan is in the chat as well, and Alan's very good point here. He says, "How lucky are we to have Kelleher as our number 2 keeper? He didn't have much to do, but is so calm." Yes, although there was one time where he managed to, you know, he almost did the traditional Liverpool goalkeeper thing by screwing it up. He just managed to get a pass away on about the 79th, 80th minute, something like that. But generally, how impressed are you with Kelleher, Brian? I think he's great.
Oh, he's as good a second keeper can be, really. And he has I don't know what part of Ireland he comes from, but he definitely comes from the quiet part. He has that assuredness of him. He reminds me of Roy Keane a little bit, you know, man of few words. And he just seems very mature for such a young player. And from what I read about him, he's incredibly happy at Liverpool and happy to carry on and bide his time. And you know, I just think he's such a good number 2, like as good a number 2 as you're going to get, really. And yeah, he'll make mistakes. All keepers make mistakes. I mean, there's a reason why, you know, there's like 4 or 5 world-class keepers in the world, you know, dotted around the leagues, and those guys never make mistakes. But the rest of them, it's normal for a keeper to make mistakes from time to time. But the most important things, do you have somebody between the sticks that makes the team calm and your defenders are not worried about who's guarding the goal, and he's that. I think he has a leadership and commandness about him that's just great. And yeah, another great performance from him. Really, really good.
Super answer, and you're right to pick up on the fact that he reminds you of Roy Keane. He is actually from Cork, the same place as Roy Keane. Wonderful stuff. Abdul's here. Hello, Abdul's joining us from Watch LFC. How you doing, Abdul?
Not too bad, guys. How's it going? You all right?
Very well, thank you very much. Very well. We were just singing the praises of young Kelleher. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, he made that really important save in the first half, didn't he? Where it was definitely going in, and it was kind of a mistake from him. But then, yeah, he redeemed himself, and yeah, he's just in general always puts in good performances for Liverpool nowadays. So really happy with him. Good with his feet. Yeah, onwards and upwards.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Let's talk about the goals themselves then. They got the first one. I thought this was a good goal, Abdul. I'm going to stay with you. I thought it was a pretty good goal. They had a lovely crossfield pass that was well controlled out on their left wing. You could maybe nitpick that Conor Bradley could have been a bit closer, but it was a really good hard low cross and an unstoppable shot by Udo, who was the scorer. Was there anything that you think we should have done to keep that ball out, or was it just one of those things where it was a good goal, Abdul?
I think watching the goal back, yeah, Bradley could have done more to stop the cross. But I also thought Konate kind of gave up on it for some reason. He kind of put his hands up oh yeah, he thought the keeper was going to get it or something. So, and that gave the opportunity to Udo, I think, who did score it. So I think maybe Konate could have been a bit better in that situation. But when the goal went in, I just thought it's the magic of the cup, let them have one, and then hopefully we can come back from it.
Yeah, and well, we tried to come back from it, didn't we? I mean, it was all a bit, I don't know. I mean, our next shot was, I think it was about 3 minutes later. There was just a pot shot from Curtis Jones from outside the box, and we were slow and ponderous around the box. But then, for the first time in the match, as I mentioned before, Brian, Conor Bradley picked out Kaide Gordon. We haven't really spoken about Kaide Gordon. I mean, that finish was Salah-esque, wasn't it?
It was amazing. It was really, really, really good. He had so much composure. Yeah, ball in, took a touch, knocked it over to his other foot, and just slotted it in. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I'm sure the people who are not Liverpool fans might have been watching that game and like, oh, who's this guy? I mean, he has a great reputation amongst Liverpool fans who kind of keep an eye on what's happening in the youth setup. And he obviously knows how to finish. Yeah, what can you say about that? It was just brilliant, and the composure. Salah would be proud of that, right? He didn't snap at it, took his time, and just made it look easy. Absolutely brilliant. I would probably say, for me, my favorite goal of the whole of the game was that particular goal. I thought was brilliant.
It was cracking. And what did you make of his overall performance, Brian? Kaide Gordon, do you think he should have pushed on from there? I'll just give you a few stats. He had 3 shots in total with 2 on target. He was on the pitch for 80 minutes. Who scored gave him 7.58 out of 10. But he only tried 1 dribble. And I don't know, maybe he's only 17 years old. We can't really criticize him. But I thought maybe he could have pushed on a little bit. I don't know, in the second half, taken a few more risks, or again, am I being stingy? I don't know.
No, I'm my opinion about young players. I'm a bit of a pragmatist, and I'm very harsh when it comes to young players because I want them to do well. I really do. But it's just a tough business, and and you only get so many minutes on the big stage, and particularly games that are televised, etc. And yeah, you have to go above and beyond. I mean, so he scored an amazing goal, so that caught the eye. That was great, and he had some good play. I mean, I don't think any of our young players today did anything silly, and they looked after the ball, which is, I think, under Klopp is one of the most important aspects of what we do. We don't give the ball away cheaply. and they all did that. But other than that, I don't think he really. I mean, I didn't expect him to stamp his put his his foot down and say, "Wow, it was the Kaide Gordon show." But yeah, I think he had an okay game. Other than that, he didn't really kind of stand out. I wasn't thinking. But then there's some senior players who 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 are just nowhere to be seen for the first 20, 30 minutes. So I think he did all right. I think he's moved on in the right direction in terms of his Liverpool career, with especially with getting that goal. So.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, absolutely. But two players. I mean, Dickson Bonner and Max Waltman. Abdul. I mean, Dickson Bonner is actually 21 years old, and I think he tried his best. He did all right, as is very good. What Brian was saying, like they didn't make any errors, did they? These youngsters or these unproven players. But Max Waltman. He actually had 100% passing accuracy. He only touched the ball 15 times in his 45 minutes on the pitch. 11 of those were accurate passes. So he was obviously just laying it off in one touch to the guy next to him, basically. But Max Waltman, I think, for example, he doesn't look ready to me. He doesn't look ready. Like you could tell that he's a way off, for example, Premier League level, let alone Champions League. What did you make of Waltman and Dickson Bonner, Abdul?
So yeah, I think you're probably bang on the money there, Waltman. I mean, it's a great story with Waltman. Him and Tyler Morton, best friends since they were 6 or something like that, very, very young age. And I think they're both with the same agency. So when Tyler Morton started making his breakthrough a few weeks ago, it's funny because Tyler Morton feels like a fully fledged first team player right now. But yeah, he's only really been in a picture since like preseason. I think we were on the same one of these podcasts possibly with Brian as well. We were talking about youngsters in preseason, and we did mention, I think, Conor Bradley and Tyler Morton. So yeah, it's kind of good to see like 6 months later they're performing. But yeah, Max Waltman definitely looks a bit off the boil, but hopefully keeps working hard, just like his mate. He'll find a chance. It's probably a bit harder to get into that Liverpool front line than Liverpool midfield, though. There's a lot more you have to bring to the table, and to be fair, I haven't really watched Waltman at under 23 or under 18 level to know what he's really about, so I'll try and pay a bit more attention to him going forward. I did think Dickson Bonner had a good performance in general. I think Klopp highlighted him a few weeks ago when we were going through a bit of an injury crisis. He was saying that he really stepped up in training and was really there as a proper player. And I think he showed that today in the match. I think in the first half, for a lot of it, he was on the right-hand side. And I don't think we had a lot of success down the right-hand side. Anytime we got it down that end, we just kind of switched it back because there wasn't really much creativity. But when him and Morton kind of swapped positions, and then I think he also swapped position with Jones. Jones went in midfield. He basically played as a left winger. I think we were a lot more fluid in our build-up. So I think it was a good performance from Dickson Bonner in general. And yeah, I hope he does good things with his career because he has been here for a while. So yeah, I hope it's a good step for him for his career in general.
Yeah, great answer. Excellent stuff. Yeah, I wish him all the best. I'm not convinced it'll be at Liverpool, but with Max Waltman, yeah, I mean, for those who haven't seen him, I mean, I've always been interested in LFC and whatever kind of colours, including all the youth teams. I've been watching the youth teams for years and years. And Max Waltman, yeah, I mean, he's very, very industrious. He's not perhaps as clinical as other players, but he will always give you 1,000%. He's tricky, and he's a sensible player. He's a very, very useful attacker to have. I mean, he'll make space. He'll bring players out of position and all that. So yeah, you're right. It's still early days for him, and hopefully he'll get a few more chances. Especially if we draw Kidderminster Harriers in the next round or something, that would be rather nice, wouldn't it? So just maybe we'll just talk about a couple more players, and then we'll move on. The goal, I mean, Bobby Firmino when he came on, Brian. Bobby, Liverpool without Bobby and Liverpool with Bobby. I don't know. They seem like two different teams to me. They really do. Because Bobby, the way he knits everything together, he's a real master. You can tell why so many professional players and coaches absolutely adore him, can't you, Brian?
Yeah, and he's another player who is slowly returning to his best form or form. To the levels that we were used to see him playing at it. A year ago or whatever. He's a player who's kind of gone in and out of form, and people. He's always been the one player in the front three that people have always questioned, like maybe he's the guy who'll go first. But as you say, his game is so unique to him. He's almost invented a new position, the way he plays the game. And what I particularly like about Bobby at the moment, and what he's been showing over the past few games, is his confidence has started to truly return. I think, the little back heels, his little step overs, his little no look passes, all the stuff that really delighted us a few years back are starting to show up in his games. And I think we missed that from Bobby, because when he's doing that, he's in the flow state. He's just playing the game and enjoying it out there. And same way Liverpool without the press is just not the same team. Bobby without that sparkle, without that smile on his face, is not the same player. And so he seems to be in that place again. And once he clicks, then he makes 4 or 5 players around him a lot better every game. The same way Fabinho holds things down, as you say, Bobby knits things together. So it was great to see him out there scoring goals again.
Knitting things together like my old granny used to knit a blanket. It comes out beautiful, it comes out colourful, and it keeps you warm and snuggly, Abdul. Bobby was unbelievable. You got anything to say about Bobby, or the other person I was going to talk about was Curtis Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say better than what Brian just said. All I would say is, with Bobby, it's definitely a case of you don't know what you've got till it's gone. This season, we haven't really seen him as much as we have in previous seasons. And every time we have seen him, he's just looked great. And we really do miss him, I think. Obviously, Jota's had a great season, but there are times, I think, when we do need a bit more control in matches. And I think Bobby would definitely bring that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, everything, that this is the last of his injury troubles and COVID troubles, and he can just have a good 5-6 months now, just going into the future, and really help us win titles and trophies.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And Curtis Jones, he mentioned the change of position. I thought Curtis was superb, Abdul. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. He had a 97.7% passing accuracy, which is crazy kooky times. I mean, because actually, he had 2 key passes, which is the equal most in the team, along with Bobby and Andrew Robertson. 3 crosses attempted. One of them was accurate. The 2 shots he had, I wasn't a big fan of, because they were sort of pot shots from way out. But Curtis Jones, he's hopefully put all this, a detached retina that he had, crazy injury, wow, behind him, and he looks ready to kick on again. Abdul, he's still only 20.
And that's the mental thing about it. I mean, Curtis Jones, on one particular part of the internet, he gets a lot of flack from fans. They talk about he's a bit too slow on the ball, he's a bit too ponderous, doesn't do too much with it, he isn't adventurous. And I just think it's just a load of nonsense, basically. I mean, I understand where they're coming from. You watch him, and he does have a kind of energy to him, like the way that he plays that particular position, midfield. It's a bit like I would say like a continental player. I know it's not like, obviously British players are really good nowadays, but like I think he has a real arrogance to him, and a real confidence to him. And people always trying to write him off. They forget, like you said, Owen, he's 20 years old and he's made above 50 appearances for possibly the best team in the world over the last 3 or 4 years. So like, he's definitely a player who's trusted by Klopp, who sees his qualities. And yeah, I think today he came back with a really assured performance. It looked like he hadn't even been injured really, and he hasn't really played football for the last like 2 months. So yeah, that freak injury was really a freak injury. I didn't know that it was a detached retina. That's really weird. Never heard of that before. Is that confirmed?
Apparently. I mean, it's not confirmed. That's just the rumors that I heard. I mean, it was definitely an eye injury that kept him out for much longer than normal eye injuries keep people out for, normally about a week, but he was out for a couple of months. And I heard, through the mill, perhaps it was through Twitter, which is probably where those fools are that you mentioned who have written him off already. I mean, let's just call them out for what they are, nincompoops. Because Brian, I mean, what are your hopes for Curtis Jones going forward? Because I said it before. I mean, I get very excited, as you know, but I picked Curtis Jones as a potential Ballon d'Or winner one day. I still think he could. Obviously, it's he would need to evolve and develop, but I think he could get there. I really do, because he's got so much talent.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a first team player. That's the biggest compliment I can give him. He is a legitimate Liverpool first team player, and on merit. He's not a young player. Even though he's 20, nobody thinks of him as a young player anymore. We all think of him as one of the squad players, and a very good one. And he's dangerous as well. What I like about him is when he's on the pitch, he's one of those players that he can make things happen in any second. And when he's out on the left wing, you're just waiting for him to cut in and take a knock the ball, a yard, and then just pop it in top bin. He's an exciting player, and he physically he's quite a big guy, in the right kind of way. He looks like he's got the perfect physique for a footballer, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong for me. I mean, his development, he's gone from strength to strength every year. I think he's at that stage now, because expectations are quite high with him, that people are looking for him to move on again, right? And maybe hold down a position. I mean, I think this is actually quite an exciting time to be a Liverpool fan, with a couple of players going off to AFCON, and there is almost like a little bit of the pressure has been lifted off us in terms of the title race, because everybody's saying City's won it now. So players like Curtis Jones and some of the other young players, they're really going to get their chance to shine now and make a strong case for staying in the team once our senior pros come back. But yeah, I'm like you. I'm thinking, yeah, he's a really good option on the left wing in the games coming forward. He's he doesn't give the ball away. He's a very dangerous player. I thought he linked up really well with Andy Robinson on the left there, for most of the game. So yeah, it's really good. But to your point, I do think I don't know what it is, but he does need to push on, find another level to his game or another bow to his string. Maybe be physically more commanding. I mean, it's like Mo, when he first came here, nobody would have said that Mo is one of the strongest players in the world when he first came to Liverpool. But now he is. Like, you cannot get him off the ball. You can't get the ball from him. He can just brush you off like you're nothing, regardless of how tall you are, because he's so physically strong. And I think if Curtis could put that into his game, I think that would really, really help him take it to the next level.
Very interesting stuff. Great answer. And breaking news, Doug's in the chat. Hi, Doug. Thank you very much for letting us know that Liverpool have drawn Cardiff at Anfield in the next round. Abdul, you're clapping. Yeah, Brian, that's the kind of...
It's beautiful. Let's build a cathedral.
It's lovely.
It's beautiful because I can. It's just down the road, so I can definitely. I can maybe go check it out. Yeah.
All right. Excellent stuff. Very good. That's
awesome.
A wonderful thing, because Abdul, we just want these things to be as easy as possible, don't we? You know, in the Champions League, in all the cups, just give us all the easy teams like Arsenal.
Absolutely. Arsenal. Talking about Arsenal, I don't know if you guys have talked about the Klopp quotes that just came out after the match.
Oh, I haven't seen them. What did he say?
He said a lot, to be fair. He said a lot. So first things first, obviously Arsenal fans were very, very upset about the cancellation of the last match because of COVID reasons. Klopp has confirmed that there are actually a lot of false positives. And the only positive, which was real, was Trent. And that was immediately after the Chelsea match. So he should be back in training pretty much very, very soon. And he should be in contention for Arsenal. But every single other player who didn't perform today, so Henderson, Milner, Jota, Oxlade-Chamberlain, there's others, I've forgotten them. But every single other player who we thought was out with COVID, Joe Gomez, they're all back in contention for the Arsenal match on Thursday. Seems like it was a false alarm. So Arsenal fans are definitely going to be a bit pissed about that.
Counter-espionage at its finest.
Exactly.
Switching bait.
Exactly.
Very good, very good. But sorry, did you mention Thiago on that list? Sorry.
Thiago,
No.
that's the one. Thiago is an actual injury, but obviously there were rumours last night going around the Twitterverse that he's out for the rest of the season or until March. Klopp was asked directly about that by a journalist, and he did reply, no, neither March nor the end of the season is in my mind. It's something around the hip. That's the situation. It needs time. We expect him to be back doing rehab stuff tomorrow. He's not out until the end of the season, not at all. So positive news, I guess. But then the question is, I mean, what is wrong with him? Like he was out with a sore leg a few weeks ago, and now it's the hip. And with injuries with Liverpool recently, it does seem like Klopp tells us one thing and then it ends up dragging on and on and on. But he's saying not until the end of the season, so fingers crossed it is very soon.
He probably strained his hip doing the samba over the Christmas period. Probably, you know.
Maybe.
Practicing his dance.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I was talking to our friend Fergus, who reckons that Thiago is a luxury player. Anyway, I mean, that's an unpopular opinion for you, but he said that Thiago is more of a Man United signing because he's a bit of a luxury because he can't turn around and run back and defend. So, I mean, not that Fergus is going to be happy he's injured. Of course not, quite the opposite. But, you know, is this a chance for Curtis Jones, for example, to shine in Thiago's absence? It could well be, and let's hope that, you know, Fabinho stays fit because he's the main key to our midfield, isn't he? But speaking about, you know, possible reinforcements in midfield or elsewhere, couple of rumours that I'd like to talk about. Brian, the two main ones recently were Dan Juma, who was someone that I picked out just from his stats pre-season before he joined Villarreal. He's doing very, very well in Villarreal. I'll bring up some of his stats here, but he's doing very well. He's an attacking player. He played for Bournemouth. He got 18 goals last season in the Championship, which I thought was really good from the left wing, plus a load of assists as well. His official name is Arnaut Groneveld, but Dan Juma is what he goes by. And he scored 5 goals and he got 2 assists in 12 La Liga matches. And in the Champions League, he's got 4 goals and 2 assists from 6 matches. He's dangerous. He's 24 years old. He's about to turn 25. And he looks like the kind of player we would really want, you know, and that sort of attacking left-sided player. Or right, he can play that side. And another player who can play in various positions up front, but especially off the left, is Luis Diaz from Porto. Brian, are you happy with these rumours, or do you think it's all nonsense and we're not going to sign anyone if they cost more than a £5?
I honestly, I just don't know. I really don't know. But Luis Diaz seems like a player we need, and he looks all that and a packet of crisps. I mean, I think I really do think we need to sign one player in this window, a player that can like start in the first team. I mean, will that happen? I don't know. I mean, I can only think. I personally think the club has been very responsible during these very unusual times, particularly with money in the game coming in and going out. Will it still be there? It looks like potentially we're coming out of the end of this COVID situation, hopefully, touch wood, and things have settled. So I think there's a lot of value out there in the transfer market. And I mean, I'd love to see us make a couple of moves now in this window. But I mean, if we don't, then absolutely in the summer we definitely have to sign a bunch of players. But he would be exactly the kind of player that I would like to sign. Does he just play on the wing, or can he play in the middle of the pitch as well?
He could play as a number 10 as well, Luis Diaz. For those in the audio version, you won't know that we've got some stats on the screen now from the Primeira Liga in Portugal. 13 goals and 4 assists in 16 matches. Crazy. And in the Champions League, 2 goals and no assists in 6 matches. Porto a bit underwhelming, as we know, because we played them and we sort of marked Luis Diaz out of the game. Statistically wise, if you look at his comparison charts, he's not very good. And this is the thing that surprised me when I saw it. I looked at it yesterday. Versus other attacking midfielders and wingers in the top 5 leagues in Europe, he's not very good at goals scored or XG, or the only thing he's really good at in the 92nd percentile is dribbles completed. And he's not very good, for example, at pressing. He's only in the 15th percentile. Blocks, he's in the 5th percentile. And this is, we ultimately, it's not like we should be looking to replace Bobby with a similar player. People say that we've already got Jota, but I think we need someone who can keep the ball and defend from the front, as well as score goals and be creative and things like that. Which is why, for example, I'll bring up some other stats about Dan Juma, because he's another one who's statistically a lot better, even though he played for Bournemouth. So maybe you can discount some of this. But if you have a look, if I just bring these stats up on the screen now, you can see that he's in the 96th percentile for NPXG and the 94th percentile for shots and the 93rd percentile for progressive carries, where you run with the ball at least 10 yards towards the opponent's goal. And for touches in the attacking penalty area, he's in the 99th percentile. And the progressive passes received, so he gets in these great positions. But again, Grunewald in the bottom 1% for pressures versus other forwards across Europe. And if you compare him to other wingers, it's exactly the same. He needs to learn how to press, but going forward, he's unbelievable. But in terms of a player, I don't even want any attackers. I don't want them. I mean, I do. I would like to have Dan Juma. I think that would be a classy signing. But Abdul, I think we need midfielders more. I think we need one. I'll say it again. I say it all the time. One solid, attacking and defensive, an all-round ball buster of a midfielder. Who would you like to bring in?
I was thinking about this recently. I really look around Europe right now, and obviously we need a midfielder who can come in and just start immediately. Like when we signed Thiago, for example, he came in and he was brought onto the pitch within like 45 minutes. Obviously Chelsea had a red card, but he didn't need any of the whole 6 months, to get acclimated to the way that we play, kind of thing. So we need a signing like that in midfield, basically, which is basically an experienced player who knows his stuff. And I look around Europe right now and I really don't see it. I don't see the player who we can sign right now. I think the only one that's possible who kind of fits is maybe Nicolo Barella at Inter Milan. He can come in, I reckon, day 2, start for us, do a job for us in midfield. But apart from that, I really don't know who it is that we could actually go for. Because I would like to sign a midfielder who's in the kind of mold of Ilkay Gundogan at Man City. I don't think we really have a midfielder like that. I think we've got Naby Keita, but obviously he's at African Cup of Nations right now. So midfielders, I think FB Ref, who are similar to Gundogan. You've got players like Luis Alberto, some player called Flavian Tate. at Rennes.
Yes, he played yesterday. I saw him play. He's about 55 years old, I think, but he's a very good player.
Yeah. So yeah, just lots of unrealistic targets who I don't think Liverpool would actually pull the trigger for. So I think we might have to hunker down again for this transfer window and just rely on Tyler Morton to come through.
Well, see, no, but you see, you mentioned Gundogan. So you want someone silky. You want Silky the silkworm in his silk pajamas, as Stephen Fry once said. You know, you want someone. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, just like good all-round midfielder. Like Gundogan, for a number of years, was considered a defensive midfielder because he was playing as a 6 for Klopp in the Dortmund team. But you look at him now for Man City. Like last season, he went on some mad scoring streak, scored like 10. Really, really good in the box. Just somebody who's like an all-round great midfielder who actually I feel is going to evolve our game in midfield. Because a lot of the time in midfield, I feel like over the last few years, it has been a bit turgid, a lot of passes to the side. And then we signed Thiago, and Thiago's playing incisive balls, trying to knit play in a way that our other midfielders weren't doing. So I want another midfielder who's really kind of forward-thinking, who's going to evolve our game going forward and open up space in the final third for different kind of weapons, basically, not just going wide and getting crosses into the box.
I think I found him, Abdul. I think I found him. I found him yesterday, again, in my sort of, very geeky, got nothing to do. Let's look at footballer stats. Christopher Nkunku, 24 years old and 56 days, born in Lagny-sur-Marne, just outside Paris. He came through Paris Saint-Germain's academy when I was actually teaching there. And he wasn't one of my students, but all of my students that I had there, they were all talking about Nkunku as being the best one in the PSG academy. He was unbelievable. And his stats, he's developed into a fine player. I know he plays in Germany, and it might not be realistic to sign players from RB Leipzig. But statistically, when you're playing as a midfielder, as an attacking midfielder, if you get 8 goals and 7 assists in 18 Bundesliga games from midfield, then you must be doing something right. And then if you look at his Champions League stats, they're crazy. 6 games in the Champions League, 7 goals and 1 assist from midfield. And if you scroll down and you look at his all-round stats, he just ticks all the boxes. He's in the 95th percentile for non-penalty goals, NPXG 94th percentile, 83rd percentile for shots total, and that's his worst one in terms of his attacking stats, because in terms of assists, expected assists, non-penalty expected goals plus the expected assists and shot creating actions, the lowest he scores is in the 91st percentile. Going down, pass completion is only the 74th percentile with 79.4%, so he could improve there, but he's trying things all the time. He's very, very creative. He gets into some marvelous positions, but also look at his pressing stats. The 75th percentile for presses, and he wins a lot of headers. 83rd percentile for aerial duels, and he's just good at everything. And this is who I want, Brian. And if you had a choice between him and Nicola Barella, who's also 24 years old, about to turn 25, or some other profile in midfield, who would you go for, Brian?
That's wow. What's that website that you're using there?
FBref.com, which are the same stats as on StatsBomb.
FBref. Wow. Yeah. Well, I play I used to play Championship Manager, and I'm a headhunter for my day job. So I think it's actually quite easy to find talent in football. You just do what you just did there and look at those stats. Do not lie. He looks amazing. What kind of money would they be looking for him?
50 million, maybe 60 million.
And how old is he?
24, coming into his prime. You get
50 million worth spending, I think. Wow. I mean, he looks like a very well-rounded player, huh?
Yeah, no, he is. So, I mean, would you like to see that? I mean, would you prefer to buy, I don't know, would you prefer to buy a forward?
Have you been hitting him up? Is he on the WhatsApp group from the old PSG chat?
I need to actually. Yeah, I can probably get his number. Yeah. I'll get his number. We'll send him a few messages.
we can get 25% of his sign-on fee.
There you go. Yeah, we could start
Pay
singing
for the
"You'll
cup
Never
on studio.
Walk Alone" on a WhatsApp audio message. Then you'll definitely
Yeah.
sign. Excellent. But
I
yeah,
haven't, to answer your
Uh-huh.
question, I haven't actually, I've just kind of suspended, I've stopped doing that, the whole who are we signing, because I think Michael Edwards, you can never really, he signs players out of the blue so many times now that it's almost like a wasted exercise. I mean, I think we've all been, we were all calling out for a left back for many years, and now we've got one, you know, to back up Robbo. The chat has been, oh, we needed another centre back. We've got that. Everybody knows we need it. We need a midfield player. You know, it's obvious we need a midfield player. So, and we need one in this window, I would suggest. So I'm just kind of sitting back and waiting to see what's out there. I mean, there are good players around Europe, and I think there's probably never a better time to buy a player than now, because a lot of teams are hurting, unfortunately, across Europe financially because of, you know, what we've just gone through the past 2 years, and they're strapped for cash. And you know, whoever has cash in this market will pick up some great players, and I don't think it will be like that in about a year's time, because I think the lights will start to switch on again. People will slowly go back to normal, and then the madness that is the football bubble will be in full swing once again. So I think if you're being clever, now is the time to actually spend some cash, because some of these players will cost a lot more in 12 months time, when people feel a little bit more secure about, you know, revenues and fans in the stadiums and that kind of thing.
Yeah, great answer. And hopefully you're right. I mean, this COVID thing's going on way too long. Sort it out, clever people. Sort it out, please. Another guy, Florian Wirtz. I don't know if you know him, Abdul. Do you know him? Florian
Yeah, I've heard the name. I
Wirtz?
know he's doing bits this season. He's at Leverkusen, isn't he?
He's
Yeah,
at
he is, yeah.
Leverkusen. 5 goals and 8 assists in 16 matches, which is crazy. And 3 goals and 3 assists from 5 matches, again from the centre of midfield. And he's also sometimes plays a bit further up. If you compare him to other midfielders, he's unbelievable. He's ticked so many boxes, and he's only 18. Would you like to see us spend 50 million or so now? You know, the big swan song, the big Michael Edwards swan song, or is he going to go out with a whimper, sort of thanks for all the memories, and you know, disappear into the shadows where he's just spent most of the time sort of conjuring up his magic potions?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, this is, I think, probably his last window to actually do anything as a Liverpool sporting director. So I wonder if he's just there in his office, just itching, just like, oh, go on, one more rodeo, you know. But again, just with our midfield situation, I find it hard to imagine that we would make a signing there. No, firstly, I think we already have more midfielders on paper than Manchester City. Now we've lost Kaide to AFCON, and we've got Thiago injured, possibly for a bit. But that's still, I mean, I think another 5 or 6 midfielders that we still got to pick from. And I think the only type of midfielder who we would sign, again, is just somebody who can come in and instantly do the job. And Wirtz, yeah, I mean, he's doing great this season, but I feel like because he's 18 and he played in a different type of system, if he did come in, we would take a bit of time basically to bed him in. Same thing with Barella. Well, not even Barella, actually. Barella could come in and start, I think. And Nkunku, yeah, I think he could come in and start, definitely. But I just feel like we wouldn't pull the trigger at the moment. So yeah, I do hope that we have some kind of left field signing who, like, nobody's been watching, and it's just like the perfect profile. And Edwards comes out, puts him in the team, and Klopp starts in day 2, and we're all just like, where did he come from? It's like the 5th league in Brazil, like Arsenal did with Martinelli, for example. But yeah, I just don't know who it could be, really, realistically.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. One final thing to talk about: transfers of other clubs, or one particular one. Phil Coutinho, Brian, Steven Gerrard has taken the risk because Phil Coutinho has had 3 knee operations since he left Liverpool, apparently, and Obviously, we know he's got a dodgy back. So I don't know, Brian. What do you reckon? Phil to Villa.
Yeah, but I think he had acupuncture on his back, so he's all good now. So
Oh, good.
it's also he's on 125 grand a week, and as you say, he's got 3 knee surgeries. I mean, I haven't followed him over in Spain, so but by all accounts, he hasn't really pulled up any trees. I like Phil. I have no hard feelings to Phil for pulling a little back strain to go play for Barca. I think I might do the same back in those days. Not now with Klopp, but you know, I think it's just a different Liverpool, different team, different club. Now we are Barca. I'm happy for him. I think it's great. It's great that him and Gerrard. I mean, it's good for Gerrard, right? It's good for Stevie, and that makes me happy, right? So if it pushes Aston Villa higher up the pitch, higher up the table, then great. I wouldn't. I think Caro was asked, "Would you have him at Liverpool?" And I think no. He said just no. And I tend to agree with that. I'd be more inclined to be signing Jude Bellingham than signing Coutinho. We're not that club anymore. You know, we're signing the next big star, not stars that are kind of on the wane. As you said, that's a classic Man United signing right now. And the closest thing to that is, as Abdul says, I think Thiago has a little bit of feel of that, but Thiago is Thiago. He is amazing, and even if we just get to see him play for a quarter of the season, what fun is that, but other than that, I don't want any other players like that coming into the club. I'd rather spend big money on future talent, not on players who've played for 2 or 3 big clubs already, and I just want one final swan song. Or like some of these players are like stamp collecting. I'm not saying Phil's doing that, obviously, because he played in the UK already, or the English league already. But a lot of the other big players who are particularly older just want to go play in the English Premiership because they haven't done it yet. And I'm not sure we should be in for those kind of players. But I'm looking forward to seeing him play, because isn't he playing Arsenal twice now? Villa do in the next couple of weeks. So.
Although I think he's possibly COVID positive at the moment. So I think exactly.
Everybody's COVID positive. I watched Robbie and for banter, for jokes over at AFC TV, and they were not happy about the whole Liverpool pulling out of that league, because they have to play Spurs, don't they, in between the 2 games. And that was just, they're just a joke. They were getting so upset, and they were like, "Oh, do they really have COVID players?" I was like, "Oh, come on, please have a word with yourself." It's like, I know embarrassment is kind of like your thing, but even for them, they were like pushing the envelope. So I can't wait for that game. I just hope we absolutely batter them over the course of those 2 games. So they're playing now, aren't they? I think they're playing.
Nottingham Forest away.
Come on, Forest.
Yes, 19 minutes gone. It's still 0-0. They are embarrassing. And as you mentioned before, the AFTV thing doesn't help them at all. It doesn't help their club. But there you go. But it's very interesting what you were saying, though, Brian, about transfer philosophy. Would you agree with that, Abdul? As a final question, I mean, in terms of, we should not be looking for, Coutinho, or, United went for Cristiano Ronaldo. There's a chance that if, for example, Real Madrid were to get Haaland, then Benzema would be for sale. There are chances of all these older players, even though Phil is only 29, but he's still old, really. Should we not just be targeting the young and look for the next Coutinho always as a philosophy?
In general, absolutely. That is, I think, the best philosophy. And I think it is a philosophy that Liverpool have pretty much embodied over the last couple of seasons. A very long-term approach to football and squad building. Absolutely right. But saying that, I do think that, for example, when we signed Thiago, I think that was just a great signing, because he provided a solution to a specific problem in terms of our build-up in midfield wasn't as fluid as, say, Manchester City or maybe even Chelsea with Jorginho. So we needed a kind of specialist kind of player like that. Obviously, Thiago, the jury is still a bit out. Look, I know everybody's annoyed by his injuries and thinks that he's a luxury player, but I think if he can put the injuries behind him, he's just such a sublime player to have. Honestly, just watching him play football. The goal he scored the other week, where he kind of hit it with the swaz or whatever it was. Oh, like you can't put a figure on that. You know, I would sign him just to score that goal. Yeah, just beautiful.
Pure joy.
But I mean, looking at the football market right now, I don't really see many of those older players who can come in and do a job like Thiago's done specifically. So I don't really see us making signings like that, basically. And yeah, that's the thing. Even going into next summer, I really don't know who Liverpool are going to maybe try and sign. I don't know what kind of decisions we've made about our squad. Like, do we think that Mane is past it? I'm sure they don't, but these are the questions. Or is Firmino past it? Or do we need to move on Henderson? Or do we need to get rid of one of the centre-backs? Or all of these questions are just kind of like, what decisions have they made on these questions? Because once they've made a decision, then we'll kind of have an idea of what players we're going to start targeting. But at the moment, I feel like our squad is player for player. I think we've got the right player in each position. So yeah, it's a very ballsy summer for Julian Ward to come in, basically. First summer on the job, and to try and look for areas to improve the Liverpool squad, it's very, very hard to see.
Yeah, we're going to have to trust the process that's already in place, that's already, taken us to challenging on most fronts. Quite a few of us have given up. A few of us, I wouldn't say include me in that, but a few of us Liverpool fans have given up on the Premier League already. I haven't, because if we win our game in hand and we win our game against Manchester City, then we're only 5 points behind. If we can win our other games, I think anything's possible. I think we can string a load of wins together, with the heart, with the desire that we are, famous for these days. And, on that sort of positive note, it's been a nice day. It's been a fun day. I've enjoyed it. And I've especially enjoyed talking to you, Brian, from Hong Kong, and Abdul, who's in Wales, who's very excited to be able to go and see, hopefully, Liverpool Cardiff, even though actually it's at Anfield. So you're going to have to get on the train. Get on the train. At least you're closer than Brian and I. But there you go. Thanks very much, Abdul. And thank you, Brian. It's been a blast. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.